Okay, we're recording again. And just need to share.
This is
Start
as
with
good as a flat tire on the blue bus, I have to say.
Let's start with to live and let live.
To live and let live is to see the God in all. It is to be tolerant and real and good and bad in the same time for the good of life's realization of God. This is the theme of life here and there. Baba is in the new life of today, the avatar, who is to bring to life and action the truth in self-experience. Today is the day of fulfillment, and tomorrow is the day of super-conscious realization in the individual self of the world. God is in all in the superconscious intuition. God is life, way, motion, realization, reaction, and space in being of self-realized. The God impersonal is in the human form for the design of the head and the heart to bring to life the head and the heart. Baba is all in one, the impersonal self of all human beings. This be the conscience or the impersonal intuition or the superconscious self impersonal. It is all the same. Let it all be as it is. Baba is the one in the many. No reality here and there, near and far, as the one of all human beings. God is impersonal and true and real as human being, that is unself-conscious to be human and conscious to be the one of all in all parts of the world. God is human order in the conscience of all till he is recognized in all as the human God. The time is near for this wonder. God is one of all as the conscience in the West and in the East.
Hey, Baba. This is, that one was completely in Baba's voice. And this one is in Norina's voice. And as I said in the introduction, she's dealing with, she's now back in America giving talks and not generally to the public speaking in the mystical language, but refers to the etheric body and has to deal with certain things which come up in this. So I guess I'll start. My Life's Desire by Princess Norina Matchebelli. Oops, need to record. Oh no, it is recording. My Life's Desire. When the world shall have ceased to suffer, Mayor Baba shall have done his grace. Men shall have known through the power of their heart what is God, and shall have finally become united in spirit. This statement is a prophecy of my own heart, which I lay at his feet, that it may ask him unending grace for us all. We are all united in spirit, and we are unconscious of this grace. We are all equal, and we feel separated from one another. We cannot see the truth unless we see ourselves in the fullest union of the heart with the mind. When we expect from one another this grace of harmony and understanding, we are all uncertain that it may one day really happen. Every inch of this life that we have to live to bring about the final union of this head and heart is not yet so near as we desire it. How can we expect to be united with our divine spirit and be the inhuman kind as man, which is so dangerously indifferent to its own spiritual existence? Who is the man who is ready to take on his own conscience, a real world order? I do not see anyone in the whole world, ready to do this. We are talking of peace, and we are talking of grace, and we are talking of divine existence. What do we know about it? Unless we are redeemed and really made free of this ordinary individual self, we are unable to experience our spirit existence.
I am here speaking on behalf of my own heart that has been redeemed for all its mistakes. And I can say today, God is my guidance. And in this spirit, I want to express my profound gratitude to this wonderful man who has given me such grace. He has given me the grace of the voice of the heart. He has given me the grace of the breath that is speaking without end in my own human body of his wise guiding design of living. I wish to make myself clear when I say this, because I know that everybody nowadays is pretending to be clairvoyant and have the clear ear to speak through their Christ conscious self. It is not so. They cannot say that they are capable of hearing the God in their own misused temple, the human body. What is God and what is Christ? It is a tremendous power that comes to those of mental balance. And we who have given to God their own bodies and their own heads and their own hearts, who are ready to die without any compensation. I am here to experience the true imperative will of God and not my own. I am here to desire the order of God and not my own. I am here to live for God and not for myself. This God is here who makes us see, know, and feel this unparalleled wonder of transmutation in consciousness. We are unconscious. That is to say, we have not yet arrived at that state in which we are really conscious. We are unconscious. That is to say, We have not yet arrived at that state in which we are really conscious of whatsoever is Christ as realized supermental state of knowing him as the light, the life, and the way. Jesus of Nazareth was not a man in the ordinary sense. He was a God as man. He was unself-conscious to be the God, and he was conscious to be the man who has the conscious knowing that he is God. This incomparable or unparalleled example has to give us all more creative ambition to judge and realize what is a man that is God conscious. Here in the West, people think that God is the absolute, abstract, unconscious reality of which they have never to become conscious of. They do not really see what God is, but they see what is man. They think they see what is man. In some way or another, they have the idea of themselves being equal and right in saying, I am a God when I am united with him. This is not true. Men become God when they are men who are incarnating the God power. Men are not God until they have not realized this ultra consciousness power. This is all very new to this world in the West because they do not understand what is God on earth. They believe in heaven as a place where the God is dwelling for the sake of his own good, fulfilled condition.
Can I ask a
Nobody.
question? Back up just a half a line. That sentence.
Just a moment, just a moment.
We'll mark it. We come back to it if we can.
No, I want the flow to go on. So
Okay.
remember your question. Nobody in this world can understand what is man. Every one of these human beings, of which we all are one, come to understand what everyone has to understand at the end of the world's career. I am conscious today of this unparalleled being that expresses itself through my heart, that is a man in human form, that is very unself-conscious of being the man, who is God in its ultimate fulfilled state, is omnipotent and omniscient, human, unself-conscious, earth-bound being. He is the man who is God, who has to come into this world to bring the world the realization that is the highest that this world with its human life can ever obtain. So let this be said to my Western fellow men, that we who have dedicated our lives to God are now realized in ourselves as one with him, the human creature that is one with God. We are not only realizing this, but are in perpetual communion with him. We are the simple human strivers who have no desire, no ultimate ambition, but to give to him this our life, which we consider utterly unimportant. This little contribution of my devotion to this great soul, I wish to lay at the feet of the world, which I have completely realized. And I know that when I say this, no one will understand it.
Baba. Jai Baba.
Are you taking questions now?
Yeah. What
May I share my screen?
okay, did I scroll to where? Okay, let's see. Yeah,
Is the screen in the right place?
Um,
see.
Just swipe across your screen.
so right here, men are not God until they have not, the last sentence in the paragraph beginning with the incomparable. Men
Yeah.
are not God until they have not realized.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm it's a double negative, right?
Yeah.
There's something off about that sentence to me.
Yeah, and
Maybe so.
this,
So basically, men are God when they realize this ultra consciousness power.
That's not how it reads.
No, it's double negative. Yeah, it's weird.
Well, it'll be a while before we know.
I don't know. Yeah, there are,
Like Darwin says, infinite patience and longing.
well, you
Yeah.
know, the one, I'm wondering, where's the earlier reference to ultra consciousness power? There is, I think there's an, but we don't want to get too deep into the weeds in here because,
Excuse me, but right before that sentence, it seems to explain it a bit. So this is not true. I am the God when I'm in a, it's not true. Men become God when they're men who are incarnating the God power. So I see a difference there.
good, that's good.
Okay.
Can you repeat that again? Men are not God till they what was that again? Hi, Mona.
Men are, the question is this last sentence in the paragraph, men are not God until they have not realized this ultra conscious power. And Nancy's pointing out, if we go back a sense, they think they see what is man. In some way or another, they have the idea of themselves being equal and right in saying, I am a God when I am united with him. So that's the key. They think that I am a God when I am united with. This is not true. Men
But the sentence makes so much sense, right? Because uh, until you don't realize God realization or self realization, then you're not God. Because then, if you're living life as man, and when you do realize God or self realize, then you are God. That makes sense, right? I mean,
It's the last sentence that we were questioning.
says, see, I am, when you take the phrase, I am a God when I am united with him, this is not true. Men become God when they are men who are incarnating the God power. And that, which is, they become, one of the qualities of that realization is selflessness. Whereas the last sentence, I think, addresses that when it says, men are not God until they have not realized this ultra conscious power. So if a man is thinking, I've got this ultra conscious power, then he has this, it's not a selfless experience. I don't know whether that.
Yeah, because you're not aware of the ultra consciousness power.
Right, that's one of the things
So-
Bob stresses. He says, I am just an ordinary man.
But isn't it true
Well-
where Baba also says that there's God in each one of us?
Sure,
And it's all,
There's
and we
nothing
are
but
all
God.
God.
but
There's
we're,
nothing
Yeah.
but God.
we understand that as an idea, but not as an experience.
I-
Bing, is that any clearer, Bing?
Well, to me, it's a simpler view in that we're 13.8 billion years into this project, and here we are in this current state. However, if you look at humanity, we've only had agriculture for 10, 12,000 years. Humanity really emerged from hunter-gatherers to agriculture and civilizations as we know them in three different areas, mainly. This will just take 30 seconds. Tigris, Euphrates, Nile is one mega section. The Indus River is separated from the others by insurmountable geology. And then the Yellow Yangtze River, the same. They all had the same history. Hunter-gatherer, agriculture, villages, cities, warlords, aristocracies, Magna Carta, and then you had the Huns and Mughals go across and sort of unite best practices or bring things together. And that brings us to modernity, which is where we are now. And this whole upheaval of civilization, emergence of civilization, is conflict driven and love driven. And here we are in the midst of this with consciousness emerging to the state that we're now in, which is somewhat pathetic, but also somewhat of a quite a marvel. And where does it go from here? Well, it goes into unity of being, which is inevitable, but right now we're struggling with the moment.
Yeah.
Present. That's where Baba is in the present.
Yeah, that's in the present.
And
Yeah.
in each present moment, find his call. That's a Malcolm Schloss paraphrase, but that is the focus, I think. And that's all one needs to concern oneself with.
Well, the messages can't be compared to, I don't think, anything else. And this is about how man does not understand. He goes through the next paragraph. How man does not understand what God is on earth.
Right.
So I think that all flows together pretty well with that.
Yeah, it's trying to reach this emergent consciousness into assist an awakening to its real nature. And what all the traditions are trying to do is help one read the only book that matters, which is the book of the heart, which is confounding because it's beyond words.
Beyond words. Thank you.
Yeah.
We're going on. This is the worst thing for me. Even when I would go to discourse meetings, the discussion. I just never liked the discussion. It didn't make anything clear.
Right.
Well, part of the thing that this
Zero.
actually triggered, and that's what I was saying in the introduction, is the issues that she is bringing up in this article has to do with the difference between when she was on the Blue Bus tour with Baba, speaking the mystical language, pure from her impersonal connection with the impersonal God, and now she's in the West, and she's having to address. Evidently, it was a big thing about clairvoyance and people looking, having certain things, and she, when the week before, last week when I was talking about that, her describing that period from 41 to 48 as being, a trial, that kind of forgotten what the actual word she used, but talking to Elizabeth of what they went through, it was not as easy in confronting the West. The next one, I don't know whether we want to take time to do it or not, but the next time, Rhythm is Power, adds a depth to this discussion with where she's speaking in Baba's voice as well as her own. But
Oh, let's do it.
can we do it? I got.
Think so.
Are you up for it? It should.
Huh? Yep.
So, see.
How many pages?
I think it's 6.
Oh, that might be too much.
Let's see. Gotta find it though. There it is. Do you all see that?
7 pages.
Do you see that? Rhythm is Power.
Yeah.
I'm sharing it now on the screen.
I can't see it on mine.
Let me share. Let's see, I'm going to stop share. Share.
Needs a little more power to reach Canada.
Do you see it now? Wait, Wendy?
Now, I see what's on my screen this is all very new to this world in the West.
It
They do
should
not
be-
understand what is God on earth.
You should be seeing Rhythm is Power.
No.
Nope.
Does everybody? None
I
of you.
see what Wendy's seeing.
Oh, okay.
No.
So let me stop
We
share.
can call this a miracle or a misfunction.
Well, like I said, it was a flat tire. Okay.
Puncture.
Still see the same?
I see
see you.
people.
Okay, and one more time, and one more check here.
I see a
Yeah.
computer.
There we
Oh,
go.
there we are. Rhythm is power.
Eureka!
Okay.
Yay!
Okay,
Thank you,
without any
Baba.
further ado, here we go.
Or questions.
Yeah, with Rhythm as Power. If you'd mute yourselves. Rhythm as Power. The voice of the avatar is permeating in the ethereal form of the disciple and used only by the avatar when the disciple is aware of this ethereal form. The ethereal form of the disciple is not to be taken as a fact, as understood from the occult standpoint, but it is a situation which is to be understood by the following explanation. When Meher Baba explains facts that happen within the human being in those 4 bodies, namely the gross, subtle, mental, and ethereal, all those who study the Eastern science of yoga will be happy to understand this phenomenal fact of his own ethereal body being present through the voice of a human creature who, at the moment when she receives the long-distance call, has no other choice than to follow that vibratory order to adjust herself in mind and the inner bodies and accept the sound. At the moment when this is spoken out loud, the voice is the reactive vibration through the same body and its intuitive working organ, which is used in accordance with the receptiveness of the audience and its respective faculty of intuition. Every time that the voice transmission signalizes within the ethereal form's ear, it affects a nerve system which is of the astral form, where the nerves are still vibrating and reacting. This transmission enters the heart region, and its heart center accelerates the pulsation of its beating action, also to be understood as the astral center. And it hurts seemingly, but in reality, the physical center is utterly untouched. This apparent pain in the astral hearing nerves and in the astral heartbeat action is merely to be noted and not made a point of study for any scientist. The physical body alone is really hurt when the outside world stands up against it in impure thought reaction or with any such vicious reactions as jealousy, envy, or anger, which unfailingly hit the actual physical nerves. The internal hearing is to be taken as grace. No one who is really hearing through his astral hearing organ in the occult sense can have the avatar's voice. Here, the so-called medium mystically interested people must resign and act with great humility when it is brought before them through the disciple of the real avatar. The real avatar today being Meher Baba. All the transmission of voice shall now be scientifically explained.
Norina Matchebelli is resigned to serve the Master throughout her lifetime as living wire of his grace whenever he wishes to use it through her own living human body as disciple of many years of suffering before having the grace to meet him in the human form. Not being ever in doubt that he is the God-man, amid being sure that he is the God conscious, she is here to show all in the Western Hemisphere the wisdom of the light and of the suffering with its right reason, and the true yoga of truth of which she is conscious, having been in her past life a yogi of great influence and power. Throughout all her life in the present form as Norina, she has served the hierarchy and is therefore indispensable to the hierarchy because of her gifted self and her deep spiritual nature, which is now tuning with the state of the sixth plane of consciousness for the time that Meher Baba does not speak by word of mouth and power as God Almighty in the world of today. She is to be believed and revered for the sacrifice to give and take off the load of all other people's incredulities by omitting her own self impersonal and personal to serve the avatar. To obtain grace is to be ready to receive it, and that is to surrender willingly through all lives of the past and in the present life. Surrender that which is self-imposed individual ideology and bad ideology, negative and destructive and dual. She is today unconscious when she speaks, but knowing herself and the right thought. She is herself humble, calm, and simple in all ways to make it plausible to all that to lose the three bodies and conscious, willful individuality means give in, give up all desires such as lust, greed, self-imposed ideology, and make no claim to leadership in spiritual matters of any kind, nor to want to teach or preach or to think to obtain personal advantage in the life of today. That humility, of course, cannot be qualified as the real humility of St. Francis, but must be higher understanding. To understand such deep facts, one has to be utterly developed in the psychic body, which is the astral form and the subtle nerves that reflect in the human gross form, vibrating simultaneously with those of the gross form, and only these are to be felt as experience or as reaction. The astral form of every human being is not capable to bear the avataric vibratory voice. Only the ethereal form has the proper structure as ethereal cells and ethereal force as a conscious creation condition, and therefore is made acceptant by the avatar as awakened conscious knowing of its own existence. This too is my grace. This too is grace. The ordinary development, which is called self-realization process in the human being, can only be experienced through the mental plane, which is the body having conscious cosmic knowledge. Only because of the presence of the avatar in this world of today is this phenomenal happening possible. I here respond to Meher Baba, who actually makes this dictation possible, because he is here to find a way to transmit his vibratory Aum being power into the world of the Western Hemisphere, namely the USA, in preparation of his own manifestation in tone and word of God-man. The USA region is utterly unconscious of its own subtle and supramental intellectual capacity to progress in intuition understanding.
The intuition understanding has to become still more developed through the internal situation of the individual in its supramental influencing of the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is ordinarily very little understood by the psychoanalyst of today for its original purpose. The subconscious mind cannot, in fact, be really understood until the man in his ordinary everyday life makes a point of that which I am going to explain. God is man. To be man, God has to be manifested power, which can react in the subconscious mind and liberate its muddled condition. This muddled condition is due to the law of karma, which bases its good reason to be law on the very well-regulated creation plan, which is that man is nothing else than God himself making his own man. What kind of man is that? A man who is utterly selfless, a man who has no more a consciously functioning intellect. He is divine in power, as he can use only this divine power to transmit his own selfless existence. That is enough to prove that whenever he uses his transmitting vibratory power, it is pure good and pure bad, which is liberated and freed from the function of the human karmic experiences. This karma, which every human being has to endure, is more or less his own volition. That is to say, man is responsible for his own karmic conditions. One is used to hearing this constructive criticism about this fact, which makes everyone dissatisfied and feels helpless, that man is responsible for his own destiny. But as nothing exists without the own being power, man cannot say that it is utterly his own responsibility when he is a murderer or a king or a great politician or a semi-advanced yogi or a better living holy man. This idea, which is merely a self-imposed, very conceited conception, will in this age of the new avataric dispensation come to an utter change. The life of the man, the light of the man who is God knowing, is power of knowledge. This power is transmissible to all who follow his dictates. It is power of realized knowledge, whereas the power of the ordinary human being that is merely developed in the human order doing of the head and heart is far too little in command over its own three bodies. When the human being begins to be aware of that which one calls the transmutation of consciousness, then the individual has all the signs which are the following. The individuality turns towards the inner side of the human self. This human self has to be understood as the combination of two things. One is the ordinary reactive nervous system, and the other is the existence of its higher consciousness. These two opposites we can also call symbolically the dual nature of the finite existence. Both are working simultaneously in the ordinary human creature. Nothing can ever divide these two opposites. They are both in one way ordered by the superhuman order of the said own being power. Whether man is conscious of it or not, it is the structure of the human being today.
No one can obstruct the own being existence willingly. No one can say, without being fooled by self-imposed ideas of that external self, that he is inwardly not the own being existence. The whole question is to detect it and to become conscious of it. This own being existence is, in its highest potentiality, the man who is fulfilled existence. Such a man was Zoroaster, Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad. Such a man today is Meher Baba. The reason why the so-called self-willed, intellectually and spiritually unbalanced humanity of today is creating war must not be misunderstood as merely self-willed action. The external self, when the avataric figure throws up the worst in man, represents the lowest faculties such as greed, lust, negative thoughts, doubts, and impersonal speculative ideology. This avataric figure projects itself, creates first the destructive reaction and simultaneously a reconstructive impetus of hope, pure faith, divine intuition, pure thought, which is unprejudiced expression of the divine mind that is universal in knowledge. Such a divine mentality must appear in public sometimes and create the unquestionable order-giving reaction, which is called dispensation. Such a man is due through the volition of his own being existence. The ordinary human being can never be entitled to use the being existence willingly, not even through speculative endeavor of study of yoga practice or philosophy or reading of books. It is not allowed to any human being to use the being power when it is not under direct order of the avatar. The possibilities innate in men to touch at the being power are very small and have to be explained to all people as the human fact, which is to be found in the practice of life spiritual. There is no other way for the rationalistically inclined human race of the Western Hemisphere to find the pure standpoint of realization of real spirituality than in being in themselves real and human and good at helping one another. No one in the human self is pure in thought unless he is lifted out of the rational head and tries to serve others with the spiritually inclined heart. This spiritually inclined heart of all races is the individual effort to be a better human being. This is to be regarded as the most any human being can do to be good at the specially well-disposed heart's wish to do good and to be charitable, less critical, and less cruel to all human beings and animals, as all that is of four legs in the race of the consciously intuitive or unconsciously intuitive human or animal species is good enough to be found also in all ways of life to be aspirant to godhood. For all people of the world who try to follow the light, Meher Baba says, do one thing all who follow their own spiritual intuition. Do one thing all who live for the God as religiously inclined human being. Do one thing all who seem to be mystically inclined. Do one thing all who are troubled in heart and mind for reasons of life or dual pain of mind and body. Do all one thing in this life of the coming of the Christ, and that is give up lust in excess, give up smoking in excess, give up concubinage or living with another's wife or vice versa. Try to be honest and true, to live in the thought of the coming of the new avatar as Christ being who is pure in thought, unselfish in help to all human beings in all the portions of their own spiritual or human bodies, and to live with all men as equal in spirit. I say this as being the rational question to be discussed among all who come here to hear the voice as expressing through a disciple, Norina Matchebelli. The avataric figure is mind and body in all men, as he is the incarnation of all that is pure and solidly pure and fluidly pure, as are the intuition bodies beyond the realm of the oneness order of light and shade, which is ending in the mental human body. This is all that is to be said about the avatar to the ignoring human being of this Western Hemisphere, and also of the Eastern Hemisphere of today. All in life today is lower than it has been in between the two new dispensations of the time of Jesus and the one here in the Eastern and Western worlds. No use saying it is otherwise, as it is lowest in climacteric as well as in physical resistance, and impure aim and impure achievement.
A spiritual achievement.
Spiritual achievement.
Wow.
Hey, Baba.
Wow. Wah, wah, they say in the East, wah.
Yeah, so that did share another perspective on this unusual transition from the blue bus days in the mystical language to thought transmission characterized by the etheric and other terminology.
And I wanted to say this, uh, Laurence Weisberger was new to Baba, and he happened to go to one of Darwin and Jean's meetings in Schenectady. He was brand new. And during the meeting, they have a break, and she would serve cookies and a beverage. And he walked into the kitchen, Laurence did, and she took him aside and she started ranting and raving about how dare Norina say Baba was speaking through her. And she was so mad. She says, I was so mad that I drove down to New York to her apartment. And I just, so you have no business, and blah, 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 on and on. And Norina didn't say anything. And then when Jean ran out of steam, Norina just opened her mouth, and all Jean smelled was rose petals. So she turned around and drove back up to Schenectady. So, it wasn't entirely accepted in the so-called Baba world. The whole world is Baba's world, but It was not. And I feel even to this day, that's what I feel. It's slow. It's slow to accept this. It's slow to get out of your way of thinking. It's like, whoa, because you've been speaking your language since before you were walking. You're pretty set in that language. And if a foreigner comes and says, hello, I am fine. How are you? How are you not? Or, they don't have our way of saying it. It's a foreigner. It's not that you're just their accent. It's the same way. It's like we are having our accent changed, and it's a tremendous relief. And I only remember one time listening to a message. I don't even remember what message was. I was listening, and when it was over, I was astounded. I went, oh, wow. Every cell in my body was nourished. And I, for the life of me, do not think of myself as a bunch of cells walking around as Rosalie. And I just remember, Baba doesn't give me experiences very often, but that one was a true wow. It was a wow. So I know they hold such great light, and I'm willing to surrender all my philosophical bent, and I'm just taking a mind vacation with it. Everyone's entitled to a mind vacation.
I just looked up quick again that way that Norina, when she and Elizabeth had gone in 48 to be with Baba in India, and Baba in particular put Norina to rest because of so much strain she had been subjected to. And she writes a letter. Elizabeth had to go back to America, and she writes a letter to Elizabeth. And at one point, she talks about wishing each other well and whatnot. And then she says, don't get stuck at old memories. This is in the letter. Don't get stuck at old memories. However, remember that during the 7 years of tribulations shared and endured in good comradeship, we have gained one thing in common, and that is to be head and heart surrendered to Him, who is our common good in this earth of shade and light. The fact of my illness should be well understood by you. Being sensitive as you are, you see deeper than the other dear ones who shared in the temporary despondency and depression in my life. When I asked Baba that he should explain his mysterious deep way to work in the heart and head of the disciple who has given the life to him, he said, don't worry, I shall give them all explanations in time and in my way. They will understand. I shall explain the dark journey of the soul. So it was a difficult period. Yeah.
And this was after the war.
This was, she came, that in 48, that was after the war. During the war, they had the period of the blue bus, and then the period of going around America looking for a center and giving these talks.
Oh, that's
Found the center in 44 when you had the second turn of the war with it coincided with them establishing Baba's home in the West, as well as Baba taking occupancy in Marizan. And then you have the building of the center, and when she was giving instructions, that was also difficult. And it said the final thing after when she wrote that letter, it was in 49, and Baba, her suffering didn't end as she thought it might, but in 49, Baba wrote and told them that they could continue to communicate while he was on the new life because they would be living the new life for the West through them. So the last chapter of Norina's life, as he had said in the Ajmer talks that we had, her reward would be suffering, and that's what she experienced the rest of her life. Shaw, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I was listening to that as I was working. I was refinishing the floor. I was doing the urethane part, and yeah, I agree with Rosalind that and everybody. That was so powerful.
Yeah,
I experienced that energetically so much. That was amazing. Yeah.
very good.
So, Jonathan, when was Rhythm is Power written?
Let me check here just quick. With no, oh boy, let's see here. No, this was 4/1 was November of 41.
Oh, okay.
The second, no, not November. It's I got to calculate here. It's not. 2 would be December, January, February, March, April. So it was May of 42.
And of course, for during
Well after they were back, you know.
the war.
And we have a few more that we'll do, and then we'll be going to the mystical life messages. So we'll be doing the intuition of the impersonal self, a talk that Norina gave March 5th of 42, and then the yoga of truth, and then the significance of Mayor Baba's silence. And then we'll go back and do the Mayor mystical life messages.
Very good. Well, that was a trip. Thank you.
Yeah.
I love Rosalie saying we had a flat tire there with the
It's a modern day flat tire.
any other?
There, Prakash, are you there?
Hey, Prakash, Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Great to hear you both share. And actually, I mean, I don't know if we can talk about it, but then in the last discourse, she seemed to have talked a lot about subconscious mind. Do you guys have any thoughts on that? I mean,
Well, there is that subconscious subconscious and conscious article that was earlier. Actually, I just opened to it. Yeah. So that has a detail. That was from the perspective of man dealing with his subconscious. In this time, when let me see if I can find it here quick. When he mentions it, it seems that he talks about the functioning of the God-man, which is a whole different perspective when it comes to the subconscious mind. Let's see. Talk about something else while I look here quick.
no, I mean, because I tell you, so many things in our body happen subconsciously, like we breathing,
Yeah, yeah.
the flow of the blood, and all kinds of things that happen, and we are hardly aware of almost 90% of things that happen, and our conscious mind can only perceive the rest of the stuff, whatever is left. So the role of subconscious mind seems to be quite interesting, actually.
Let me see if this was in the, I don't know whether this, in the West and the East in self-realization. We read that today, right? Did we start with that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Baba is all in one, the impersonal self of all human beings. Let me see if I can, let me just share this quick. Baba is all in one, the impersonal self of all human beings. This is the conscience, or the impersonal intuition, or the superconscious self impersonal. It is all the same. Let it all be as it is. Baba is the one in the many. No reality here and there, near and far, as the one of all human beings. God is impersonal and true and real as human being that is unself-conscious, to be human and conscious, to be the one of all in all parts of the world. God is human order in the conscience of all till he is recognized in all as human God. The time is near for this wonder. God is all as the conscience in the West and the East. My apologies, I read that as subconscious. It was in, I'll continue if anyone has something to say. I'll see if I can find that. I guess. All right.
I still struggle with impersonal. I don't know why.
In what way?
Well, it's self impersonal, God impersonal, individual impersonal. I don't know. It just, every time I hear the word impersonal, I think of invisible, selfless, you know, something ethereal. But I guess maybe I just cleared it up in my head. I don't know if that's correct.
But just like Baba told Norina, you've met the impersonal God. Now meet me personally.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, this may not be directly answered, but the thing that came to my mind was when Baba was in the body personally, you could, like Rosalie is saying, initially Norina had contact with God impersonal through her intuition, but
Right.
wanted her to find him personally, which was possible then. Now, Baba is no longer in the form, but he is as if physically present. And the invitation now is through God impersonal, we find God through our intuition, and the personal aspect I see as our experience of our person and our portion that we have working through us. That's actually what she's been talking about in these articles we read today, that to find him in ourselves, find that divine, so that impersonal God is that.
I have a different take on that.
Go ahead, Nancy.
My understanding is something like knowing God impersonally. Say you're a child and you're reading about Jesus or one of the avatars, and you're getting to know God impersonal in a way. And then you do know God personally within, but then you know the impersonal God within too, before you know the personal. First it's the impersonal. So yes, I see it the same as it's within the personal. But I don't think it's you're omitting the personal. I think they become the one relationship in the I, the both personal and the impersonal.
Yes.
And, because I used to pray to an impersonal God until I knew the personal within. But then Baba wants us to know the impersonal as well as the personal within. So
Yeah.
they come together anyway, but that's my take. Yeah, so far. Did that make any sense to you? It's so hard to, you know, explain it without so many words, but the impersonal is not outside of ourselves. It's also within, I feel, with the personal, you know.
Mhm.
So first it was the impersonal, then the personal, and then the impersonal, personal almost, you could say. So that's somewhat of a mix, but it's an understanding, I feel, that, you know, the journey, because when you're beginning, you're looking for that personal, because you're imagining and feeling, you know, God in other ways of the impersonal. So it gets more confusing the more I talk. So that's it.
This is Prakash. This was the section. The section here in The Rhythm is Power,
Right.
where they talk about the subconscious.
Right.
Hmm.
So I look at it. My question is just very, very general, obviously, because so much happens in there, and I think Norina definitely tried to
Get closer to the mic.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe let me do this. Sorry. Sorry.
Yeah, I can't hear you, Prakash, at all.
This should be good, right? Now you can.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I
Oh,
mean,
good.
my question about subconscious mind, I just generally am inviting ideas based on what has been read in this, but obviously it is quite involved because I think there are 4 or 5 paragraphs themselves, right, in this, I mean, leave that alone because I'm going to read this again to see if I can make sense of it in my head. And the other question I have, which if we can answer quickly, is the ethereal form. What would that be? I mean, we are aware of, at least mentally, gross, subtle, and mental. And now I learned that there is something called ethereal form. What would that be?
As I understand it, when Norina came back to America, it was recognized that the mystical language, the West was not ready for it. So, so she used a different term. So the thought transmission, there are a number of terms she talked about connecting through like a radio and, and this thing and that we read today, some way to allow people to relate to it. And I guess at that time, we're talking in the 40s, people were aware of the etheric form or ethereal this, and so she, used that term that people were familiar with as a way to
Okay,
do what she was doing.
I see.
That's an
So,
energetic body.
Yeah,
so it's
subtle body,
closer to subtle thing, subtle form. Is that?
it's beyond
Yes,
subtle because
yes,
no,
energetic, subtle body,
no, it's
like
beyond that. No, it's beyond that.
prana.
The subtle, it talks about the subtle, there's the gross, subtle, and mental bodies, and then the etheric body. Pardon me?
No. Sally was saying something to the cat.
Oh. So he said, Mayor Baba explains facts that happen within the human being whose 4 bodies, namely the gross, subtle, mental, and ethereal. So ethereal, as you could almost, and I don't know whether that's the Turiya, the transcendent, but it's beyond the 3 bodies of the gross, subtle, and mental.
Okay. Right. So is that what they call that's where you have this aura and things like that?
That's the astral, maybe.
Well, she refers to it also as the astral. You know, I think she was. It was in some ways it's a true expression. In some ways, it's a metaphoric way of.
Okay. Okay.
Because she actually, the other thing that was interesting in this is she said that she. Where is it?
The ethereal, Prakash, is a higher vibratory energetic body that we have. It's an astral, is emotional, mental, and the
I see.
next, and so maybe perhaps the ethereal is more connected to our intuition in a way, as it is our prana,
Oh, okay.
our life force.
Maybe we got to use the
But
word
consciousness, ultimately consciousness, but the the vibrations, of course, get higher as the bodies get less gross, right?
Right.
So that ethereal is a higher energetic vibrational body that we all have.
Mhm.
Yeah.
pretty soon.
Thank you.
We're going to be using the word quantum.
Good one, Charlie.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, the atoms are dancing.
Yes. Singularity. Oh my God.
Yeah, I just want to read one thing that was kind of interesting here, but it was on the first page of Rhythm and Power. She says that in speaking, let's see where the beginning, she writes long sentences, so I got to get to the beginning of this. Well, it's the same sentence. When Mayor Baba explained facts that happen within the human being in those four bodies, namely gross, subtle, mental, and ethereal, all those who study Eastern science of yoga will be happy to understand this phenomenal fact of his own ethereal body being present through the voice of a human creature who, at the moment when she receives the long distance call, has no other choice than to follow that vibratory order, to adjust herself in mind and inner bodies and accept the sound. At the moment when this is spoken out loud, the voice is the reactive vibration through the same body in its intuitive working organ, which is used in accordance with the receptiveness of the audience and its respective faculty of intuition. That last thing jumped out at me because she's saying it is used in accordance with the receptiveness of the audience and its respective faculty of intuition. So it isn't, so somehow in these thought transmission talks, it wasn't a mystical language, which was, she was modifying it, or Baba through her was modifying it in order to reflect the audiences she was speaking to.
Mm.
But it's a lot, but it just, these later articles, the main point was that these later articles are of a different nature than the earlier articles on the Blue Bus Tour. That's the main point.
The main point is they're vibrational. You don't have to intellectually understand it. That's the whole point.
Right. You've been saying that all the time, Rosalie.
Yeah,
I think I should pay attention to it.
I feel I've been thrown into a philosophy class. I don't
That's right. Very true. Very true.
Making things
know.
difficult.
It doesn't make any sense, you know. And the thing is, rationality's gotten to such a bad point. We went from
Right.
sensation and perfected it with rationality. Now it's like, it's the pits. Everyone's
know.
worried in the world. That's not rational. There. You know, so we need intuition. We need to experience God.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's like, wow. I remember almost falling asleep the last philosophy class I had because it didn't help my life at all. Zero. You know, and I feel much more help for me then the discourses in this, it's like it brings freshness to everything. Every quote I've ever heard from Baba, years and years of quotes, it's like, ooh, it's like getting colored TV all of a sudden. It just, oh, it's just amazing. And
That,
it's not
that's
amazing discussing it, or someone thinks, I mean, Baba's laying it out. And I tell you one sentence in that mystical language, this mystical language in I is in I the experience of God. It's not the philosophy of God. It's not the thought, thinking, it's experience of God. I thought that's all I need to hear. It's like,
yep.
okay.
Yeah,
And I'm willing to give up my English language. It's not the end all. The way we've been learning it, I mean, my parents, and unlike my parents, they taught me the language before I was walking. Now it's like Baba's teaching us literally a new language.
And quieting the mind to hear
Oh,
the heart, the
yeah,
language of the heart.
well, a child doesn't have a, totally busy mind. Maybe they do nowadays, but, Baba's showing us like children to this, and it
Yeah.
involves a render of the way we think things are, because we don't know good or bad, or, the world is such a mess now, and Baba's given us this treasure in plain sight. It's been published, in the Meher Baba journals, and now it's coming out because it's time. And when Scott McKay went to Kitty Davy, who was on the Blue Bus tours, what was it like, Kitty? She says, "Oh, we were complaining to Baba. Oh, it's not her first language. She's using words funny. We wanted to change the words." And Baba says, "Don't change one word. This is for the future. They will appreciate it." Well, I think appreciation is coming very slowly but surely,
Yes.
as the world doesn't look any better. Day by day, it's like, oh, Baba's manifesting, but we're going to really have to have quick access. That's why I think his name is so short, Baba. If you had to say Zoroaster, that's a lot more time. Baba, Baba. It's like, wow. He made
Beautiful.
it easy. That's the
Yeah.
bomb. Yeah. And
Thank you. That's good.
yeah, we don't have to understand it, but I can tell you, it was like an infusion. It was like a transfusion that one time. And I've always been drawn to things like in the book, the Norina's Gift. They've always held great light, just light. And I remember one line from her diary: "Love makes fast progress through its unbroken action of divine light." I shared that so many times. I share it with whoever I come across. I'll have a business call and I'll say, "You want to hear something good?" Everyone wants to hear something good now. I mean, watch the news and you're desperate to hear something good. And then I say it and I hear this silence. It's like a business call. And then I'll say, "Well, do you want to hear it again?" And I say, "You can write it down." And they write it down many a time. And that's by Meher Baba. So check out the internet. See about Meher Baba. He said a lot of good things.
Good job.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I think that there's Etzion, Jai Baba.
are we coming on the next
Yeah.
meeting?
Yeah, I bet he is.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
Jai
you.
Baba.
Thank you both.
Yay.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Thank you, Rosalie. It was so nice. Jai Baba.
Till we meet again.
Jai Baba.
Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jay.
Impersonal, but nice.
Look, I gotta stop the recording.